Hey, it's Greg Stanley. If you're listening to this podcast, you know I love everything automotive. This passion has expanded to include being a car specialist consultant for RM Sotheby's. So if you need assistance buying or consigning a collector car at any one of our online or live auctions, including Scottsdale, Amelia Island, or Monterey, you can reach one of our car specialists at rmsotheby's.com, or you can email me directly at gstanley@rmsotheby's.com.
This is the Collector Car Podcast, the home for the auto enthusiast. Join Greg Stanley as he applies over 25 years of insights and analytical experience to the collector car market. He will interview the experts and throw in some fun stuff as well.
Well, welcome to the Collector Car Podcast. I've got a cool guest today, Doug Nielsen. Doug, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me, Greg.
Yeah, one reason we wanted to have you on the podcast is you're consigning a really cool, interesting car to RM Sotheby's Scottsdale auction. So I do want to find out more about your passion for cars, but why don't we talk about that car in particular first, because it is fairly special. So if you would, just kind of give our listeners an overview of that car.
Sure. Well, this is a 1998 RUF Turbo R. If you're not familiar with RUF, RUF is a company in Germany that started out as a garage, actually, and then eventually became a Porsche tuning company. And then eventually they got their own license to be a licensed manufacturer in Germany. So, but they're legendary in Porsche circles because they were a company that would take a 911 shell and basically build their own modifications into the car. Of course, they would use a Porsche engine, but they would modify it and create a car that was really extra special. So RUF eventually got their German license to be an actual manufacturer, and what they did was they were able to get Porsche bodies and then just build basically their own car into them. Granted, they would use Porsche engines and Porsche parts and whatnot, but it was all put together their own way, and they would modify it for what they were known for was amazing performance. One of the cars that probably most every car guy knows about is the Yellowbird, which was in the late 80s, and RUF made this car that had this fabulous top speed and knocked out all of the most amazing supercars, Ferraris, etc. at the time.
And that was significant, a couple of reasons, because RUF, they have their own serial number, correct?
That's
not
correct.
Just a tuner.
So once they became a manufacturer, they issue their own serial number for the car. And in fact, the car that I'm selling is one of those cars. A Porsche serial number starts with the letters WP. A real RUF from the RUF factory is W09. That's how their VIN numbers start. So this is a W09 car, and this particular one has a manufacture date on its label saying that it was 1298, and it's one of 14 cars, Turbo Rs, that were made in 1998 by RUF.
Yeah, and I know you are by far the expert, much more above and beyond my expertise in Porsches and RUF specifically. If you would, go a little bit over your history with Porsche, and I know you do write some articles and such for the PCA.
Loved cars since I was, well before my teens even, and it was, I think, early on, I think I got a Porsche Matchbox car at some point, and from then it just blossomed. I think at the age of 12, I declared that I was going to be buying a Porsche fairly soon, and then it just went from there because I had worked hard in university and got a decent job. Well, eventually I was able to buy one, and then, of course, before that, every Porsche guy has gone through his BMWs, his Audis, and VWs, of course, and basically you work your way up. So when I did finally get my first Porsche, it was fantastic. And again, I had been sort of a hands-on kind of guy, and I would do a lot of my own repairs and maintenance, and even rebuilds on some of the older other cars. But when I got to Porsche, it was okay. Well, again, you start out a little bit intimidated, but then you kind of go, well, these cars are fairly simple. They just have the engine in the back. It comes out the bottom, and you start learning from there. And so I've been wrenching 911s for about over 20 years now, and have had all sorts of different cars Porsche models rather. And also, I'm really into taking my Porsche to the racetrack as well. In fact, I started that in the early 2000s and eventually became a Porsche Club instructor. And with all my fun and games with playing with Porsches, I eventually started writing car articles. I started writing with European Car Magazine and also wrote for Excellence Magazine. And I've basically done that since 2006. And currently I'm working with the PCA National Club, and I write for their national magazine called Panorama, and I do a column called Hands On right now, and it's sort of a do-it-yourself column, and it could be anything from putting in a headliner to changing the oil in a Macan SUV or doing some drive shaft or brake work on your 911. So it could be anything. So I'm kind of a guy who does a bunch of everything. I don't actually rebuild Porsche engines, and I don't do transmissions, and I don't even do body work. So people go, well, what do you do? How do you get these great cars? I go, well, I do everything in between. So it could be anything that the DIY column will be on. So, but these are all things that I'm doing in my garage all the time now that my time is spent playing with cars.
Yeah, so what was the first Porsche that changed your outlook on the cars that you would pursue and enjoy?
Racing legends, for me, it's always been Porsche 911 coupes. So hardtop cars, which would be the ones that would be used for race cars because they got the best structural integrity. And I just love 911s of all types, going from 1965 all the way up to the newest ones. Although my sweet spots are I love 993s, which this RUF is, and I also like 997s as well. I just love the shapes of the cars and how they're still that 911 DNA, but these ones just have a certain something that I really, really like.
Yeah, speaking of which, let's go a little bit further into the car. I know you mentioned it earlier, the one that's coming up for auction. Just give us a little bit of history on that car. You know, what drove you to that car? Obviously, it's a RUF. It's a 993 base, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, so what caught your attention when you were out shopping for, I don't know, were you shopping for a RUF in particular? Were you shopping for a 993 and came across that car?
No, this was a complete surprise. So I was visiting a local shop in Las Vegas here, and it's called Carl's Place, and it's kind of the place for air-cooled service and repairs and whatnot, just where the regular guys go for their work. And I was in there talking to the owner, Tony, and said we were just working on, I was actually getting some help pressing out some wheel bearings or something like that. And when our business for the day was done, he said, hey, come and look and see what I've got back here today. So we wandered through the back of the shop, circling through their 5-bay area, and we end up in Tony's area, and he's got a 904 replica that he's working on. So that's there. And then there's this ominous-looking gray-black car, and I'm saying that it's gray because it was completely covered in dust and had some scribbles on the windows and whatnot, and a few fingerprints on it from shoving it into position because it was propped up on wheel rollers. And he goes, so what do you think this is? So I have a look at it, and I obviously see that it's a wide-body 993, but there's a couple of little indicators that indicate that it's something special. There's these gill-like vent on the front bumper sides, front and rear, and then, of course, when you came around to the back, it says RUF, and I said, whoa, is this a real RUF? So we go to the door jamb and have a look in, and sure enough, it says that it was manufactured by RUF Automobile in Germany. So I started asking him about the car a little bit, and basically he said that a client of his had brought it in. It had been sitting in a warehouse in Huntington Beach for 11 years, and the sort of the stepson of the owner, the stepson's his health was failing, so he said to the stepson, you can either take this car yourself or you can sell it for the family or whatever you want to do. So he brought it back to Las Vegas because he lives in Las Vegas, trailered it back on an open trailer. All that dust was still on it because there was a lot of it. And basically he took it to Tony and said, well, what do I need to do to get this car running again? Tony had said, well, leave it with me and we'll get it up on the hoist and we'll have a little look at it, and we won't do anything, we'll just look. And I think basically he said, well, we don't know if it'll start, but if it does start, it's going to cost a fair amount of money to go through the whole fuel system
Right.
and everything to get everything safe to start. But it looks like there's lots of oil leaks and whatnot. So, you might be looking at 15 or 20,000 just to get this thing safely running, because he realized it was a special car as well. So basically the conversation kept going, Tony and I chatting about the car, and I said, well, if he's looking to sell it, I would definitely be interested in something like that, because it's kind of the type of car I would look for a project, something that hasn't run in a while, something that's complete. I don't usually go for something special, because actually I know this is a collector car show, but I'm not really a collector. I tend to just
Right.
I tend to drive them, but I do like to collect special Porsche experiences, like driving a special car or being able to restore something special. So this one fit my MO perfectly. So that's how I found it.
Yeah.
And so Tony put me in contact. So once the guy decided he was going to sell, Tony put me in contact with him, and we chatted a bit. And basically, I'm kind of a straight shooting guy. I basically just said, so what are you looking for? And he gave me a number, and I said, well, I'll tell you right now, but this is a really special car, and I happen to have a friend in Florida who used to work with RUF, and he has the ear of Mr. RUF in Germany, and so we could find out a whole bunch of information about this car fairly easily, and if you need some help with that, just let me know. And he goes, okay, well, I'll think about it, and basically I got a call back 2 months later, and he said, yeah, I'm going to need some help selling this car. And I said, yeah, no problem. You're a friend of Tony's, and it's a special car, and I think you need to know what it is so that you get the proper value for it. And, I just offered to help him out. And so we talked about the things that we would do, like try and get the official delivery letter from Porsche, or from RUF, which is effectively the same as the COA from Porsche, which is the certificate of authenticity. In RUF speak, it's the delivery letter. So after we chatted all about that, and it was 2 months later, I said, so what are you asking for the car now? Still in the same. He goes, oh, no, I'm asking this. And I said, oh, well, I could probably work within that range. So I'll tell you what, give me 2 weeks. I'll dig up all that information. If we can make a deal, then I'll buy it. And if we can't, then I'll give you all the information, just as I told you I did. But again, we ended up making the deal, and I ended up getting the car back to my garage. So there it was.
And obviously, it looks immaculate on our website, and it looks ready to go for the road. What are some of the modifications RUF made?
They just acquired a chassis and started doing their own thing with it. One of the things that's special on some RUFs, and this car in particular, is it's got an integrated roll cage. And when you open the door of the car, you don't even see it, because it's all leather trimmed and extremely tight to the A and B pillars, and also to the roof as well. And that's the roof, that's the actual roof, not the name of the company roof, but the roof for the car itself.
Right.
And so basically you look in the car and you don't see anything, and you have to actually show people that there's actually a roll cage in there. But one of the other things that they're famous for is modifying turbo engines. And the engine in this car is interesting in that it has a CTR number, and the term CTR is a RUF term, and it basically stands for Group C, so that's the C, and T, that's the turbo, and R stands for RUF. CTR was the engine or the car name that was the Yellowbird back in the late 80s. So CTR, when you use the term CTR and you use the term RUF at the same time, you're talking about a legend here. So this particular car has some special RUF DNA in that it has a CTR numbered engine. So if you compare this to a regular 993 turbo, which has about 408 horsepower, I think, this one is conservatively rated at 490 horsepower, but these engines are actually well known to make about 520 to 530 horsepower on the RUF in-house engine dyno. So those are some of the main modifications. RUF will also do their own suspension work. So they've got this integrated roll cage, so they got a really firm structure, and then they do their own sports suspension. They do their own brakes. Of course, they're just 993 turbo brakes with some. They may have slightly different piston sizes in the rear, I think. So it's kind of their own spec. basically they put this car together with their Guild front and rear bumpers for extra cooling. This car also has 2 additional oil coolers that you don't normally get on a 993 turbo. I believe you get an extra one on the Turbo S, but this one has the Turbo S oil cooler, and it also has a front center oil cooler as well. So 2 side ones and a center one. And I can tell you once I got this car back together and I drove it, I couldn't believe how low the oil temperatures were staying. It was unbelievable. It was like, is there something wrong with this gauge? No, it's just not getting hot because maybe I'm not driving it hard enough.
Yeah, so it's basically they took it from the ground up and made it something really special.
And then they do their own special interiors as well, and they're all just beautiful leather interiors. And like I said, the roll cage is hidden away behind all these beautiful leather trims as well. So it's kind of
right.
It's really the package that they put together that makes it special, because it's completely custom, and then they've done these modifications that all work beautifully together. And then of course there's the power and the speed, and they re-gear the gearbox so that there's 5 close ratio gears, and then the 6th gear is just a long gear that allows you to go a theoretical 216 miles an hour. So these cars can go like 210 or 211 miles an hour.
I guess the $1 million question is why are you selling it?
Why am I selling it? Well, as I told you, I'm not a collector, but I do love the experience of to own a supercar. And I thought, well, got the opportunity to buy it, I had to, go to my wife. I call her the tower when it comes to buying cars. So I had to go to the tower to apply for funds. And basically it was kind of like buying a small house and doing a renovation.
Right.
And but then at the same time, I would be able to get to experience the car from a mechanical perspective, and then also at the end be able to drive it a little bit as well. So that was what was in it for me. My usual MO for a 911 is to take it to the track and really enjoy it. Like, for example, I have a 2010 GT3 that has basically a race car suspension and brakes, and I go to the track and I really enjoy that. And that's really what I love in a 911. But this car is so special, being only one of 14. It's not really meant for me at all, because one, I would want to drive it, and I would want to drive it a lot and run up the miles, and then I would also want to take it to the track as well. But really, it's not really. It's such a special and rare car that I really don't want to take it to the track. So basically, when I finished my work, I put about 550 miles on it, did all the proper break-ins and whatnot, and was able to squeeze on the gas a little bit, and just kind of went, wow. So that's what a supercar is like. And, it's definitely 500 plus horsepower. So
yeah, that's really cool. So, part of it's the chase, and then you did acquire the car, and then seems like you do enjoy doing all the work. So you got it spruced up and enjoyed the drive for a while, and now it's time to pass it along to the next owner. So that's really cool.
One of the things that was really interesting was the mystery of why the car was parked. Why did the owner park it for 11 years? And basically, when I got the car, I was a little bit intimidated, and I just cleaned it for a start. Like, I put in a 50-hour detail and did this and that and whatnot, until I finally got the courage enough to go, okay, well, let's start. We've got to figure out what's wrong with this car now. And basically, it came down to 4 things. The turbos were leaking. The catalytic converters had melted when I took off one of the pipes. It sounded like there was a baseball in there. and then the engine wiring harness was crumbling. So the insulation on the wiring had started to crumble, and this was a known issue on 1996 911 turbos, and their wiring harness was recalled. So this car happened to get, and they both take the same wiring harness, the RUF and the Porsche, and this wiring harness was one of the recall ones. Now, I wasn't able to cash it in because this was obviously a RUF, so it wasn't a Porsche, so there was no warranty available, but it was only $700 to buy a new wiring harness for it, and you can get them brand new, and you just click everything in, and Bob's your uncle. And the other thing that was wrong was that there were some wear points in the engine, so I did a bore scope, and I was able to see that 2 of the cylinders looked like they were maybe either stained or slightly scored. And when we did the cold leak down test, we could see that those 2 cylinders did have an issue. But when the engine builder took it all apart, he said it was the valve guides that was the real problem. He said that looked like just staining on the cylinder walls, and it was the exhaust valve guides that were actually beginning to wear. And when these engines get hot, they like to operating temperature, they get really hot. Even though this car has 3 oil coolers, their valve guides will wear after a while. So it's known to redo the heads on these cars after a certain mileage. So these were the things that were wrong.
So it sounds like it's ready to run. And if any of our listeners are interested in this car, just go to rmsotheby's.com. It will be at the Scottsdale auction. Are you going to be there live and in person?
Well, again, with the pandemic, who knows? I would like to be there, but I'm not sure yet. So.
Right, okay. And I just got confirmation that RM Sotheby's will have a live event. I know that a few other venues have changed recently, but we will be there live. Really super cool car. I do appreciate that. Now, the next big question is what are you going to replace it with?
Actually, I actually have the replacement already. So I had purchased another 72 911T, and it was next on the block for a little restoration work. But when the roof came along, it got shoved out of the way. I'm lucky I have a friend here in my area that has a large 3-car garage with nothing in it. And he said, anytime I need to put something somewhere, I can park a car. So I took advantage of that to the fullest, and the little 911T is over there. So the little 911T will come back sometime after the auction. Hopefully there's a happy new owner, and then I can get this other car over and start working on that one. So it's going to be quite a shock to go back to the old early long hood from the beautiful 993, but there's something beautiful about a long hood as well. And this car will probably get turned into an RSR tribute car. So I'll make it special.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today, and I did give you a heads up, I believe, in the email. But one thing I like to do is at the end of this play a little game called Keep, Cash, and Crush. And it's where I pick out 3 cars for you, and you have to pick one to keep forever, one to cash in, and one, unfortunately, to send to the crusher. So Are you ready for your 3 cars?
I'm ready.
Okay. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be painful for you and entertaining for our guests. So the 3 cars I picked, I did pick a roof. Let's see here. The first car is a roof turbo Florio. Are you familiar with that car based on the 991 Targa?
Okay, yeah. I think, yeah, I'm just getting a mental picture of that one, yeah.
Okay.
So turbo
the next
Florio.
One, yep. And the next one is a roof RGT8 based on the 991 again, but with a V8. Very different. And then the third one is your classic Carrera GT. So which one would you like to keep forever? Which one would you have to cash in, and then which one would you send to the crusher? So that's the Turbo Florio. Is that how you pronounce it? Turbo Florio.
Yeah.
The RGT8, and then the Carrera GT.
Well, geez, you made this too easy.
Oh, I made it too easy.
You made this too easy.
You're going to be the second one in a row. Uh-oh.
So I'll be keeping the RG8. That's easy.
Oh, okay.
And I'll be cashing out the Carrera GT, because it's probably might be worth more than the Florio. And I'll tell you why it's so easy. Because I'm a coupe guy. So the RG8 is a coupe. So I keep that, and then I cash out the next valued one, as far as I see anyway. And then I'm not really, and also the GT, the Carrera GT is a drop top as well, or it doesn't have a roof at all, actually. Meaning the roof. Remember, not the roof, but the other roof, the one that's above your head.
Right.
So you've given me 2. You made it really easy, because you gave me 2 cars that have, one has a removable roof and one doesn't have one, and then one is a roof. So there you go. So there you go. Have you ever had anybody who found it easy?
Easier than I want, not as easy as this. So I really got to step up my game here. I was not expecting the roof ROOF to play as much of a factor as it has.
Yeah.
So that is good to know.
Yeah.
I definitely need to step up my game here. I'll tell you what. This is not good. This is 2 weeks in a row that it's been semi-easy. I need to make you guys sweat a little bit more.
That's right. Yeah, no, I listened to one of your podcasts, and there was some poor guy. He was just sweating away. It was killing him.
I got to get back to those standards. So maybe I'll have to have you on again when you sell your next car with us. Give me a second chance to make it hard on you.
All right. Not a problem.
Well, thanks so much for your time today. And again, for our listeners, if you do want to know more about this particular special roof, just go to rmsotheby's.com and you can register to put that car in your garage by going to RM Sotheby's and our Scottsdale auction. So once again, Doug, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, you're welcome. Pleasure to talk to you, Greg. And again, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for listening to the Collector Car Podcast. Don't forget to give us a nice rating on iTunes and be sure to follow us on Instagram and everywhere else at the Collector Car Podcast.